if you work in a very intense data engineering or data analytics teams, then you take that home as well. For I'll give you one very simple example, right? When we go for grocery shopping, I ask my wife to give me a bills, right, so that I can take a picture, dump that data into database, and try to see the trend, how the consumption of different pulses, or let's say vegetables, over the period of last 6 months, right? Are we consuming more junk or more green vegetables, right? So so that's so you basically always challenge any guesses or gut feelings, right? Rather you look for data.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Down and Dirty. And this time I have with me Rahul Jain. He's the data engineering manager at Snowflake with 13 years of hands-on experience in data engineering, analytics, master data management, data integration, and data warehouse design and implementation. Before Snowflake, he worked at Siemens as a data engineering manager there. Rahul is passionate about promoting data culture. Recently, LinkedIn has recognized him as one of the top 200 creators in India and has given him the opportunity to also participate in the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. Rahul, it is great to have you on the show, and thanks for being here.
Hey, great being here, Tapsi. Thanks for inviting me. Excited about it.
Great. So let's jump right into it, Rahul. For us to get a little warmed up to who you are and what you do, can you take me through a day in your life? From the time you wake up in the morning till the time you go to bed, what does a random normal day look like?
Oh yeah, I mean this is very interesting nowadays. I have a 1.5-year-old daughter.
Okay.
So when I wake up, the first thing I see her, right? That's the best part of my day. And then get prepped for work. I live by the very close to my work. I walk
Hmm.
to work usually.
Hmm.
That's what I like. And when I get to work around 10 a.m., then my role is data engineering manager, as you mentioned, in one of the data cloud company, right? So there, I lead a team of data engineers as well as data analysts. So 50% of my time goes into hands-on, coding, committing code, and 50% of my time goes into more management aspect of it. It's more strategic, how to take team further, right? Up level them. Uh, and yeah, that's about the work. Typically ends around evening. I take a break around 5 p.m. And because we are a global company, sometimes there is a need to connect with my US counterparts. So I take a pause at around 5 p.m. till 9ish, and around between 9 to 10 or 9 to 11 sometimes I take some calls with my US counterparts. So that's what the typical day looks like. And yeah, it's very flexible organization, so sometimes I adjust that accordingly.
Are you working from home or are you reporting to work every day? What's the arrangement like right now?
Usually I go to office 4 days a week.
Hmm.
One day, mostly Friday, I work from home. That's how it is.
Got it. Got it. Okay. So, in your job right now, currently as a manager, what would you say are some of the enablers? What are those things, those strengths? They could be personal, but they could be also, environmental or based on other people. But what are some of those enablers that allow you to be a better manager?
Yeah, interesting. So I think the ability to get things done, right, from with people, right. As an individual contributor, when you are not a manager, nobody's reporting to you. You are sometime getting too much into the depth of the things. But as a manager, your ability to abstract think, right, abstract thinker, and giving more clarity to the team. Now this constant changing world, more and more clarity and alignment is I think key these days. Earlier it was more of people management with respect to getting things done. Now the way trend is changing, where you need not to tell team what needs to be done. You just need to give them bigger picture, more clarity, and they come, because nowadays we have these tools at our disposals, right? um, that's what team tells you what needs to be. You just enable them, remove any roadblocks if those occurs.
And on the flip side, what are some challenges in your role as manager?
Oh yeah, it's see, not everybody as a human behavior, right? It's very difficult to maintain behavior and align them because every personality is different, right? It's not one solution fits all. So you have to first of all empathize with team. That's the biggest challenge, and then understand what's their motivations are, right? And sometimes what you are motivated about, your team may not be motivated about that. So how you articulate things to them, right? How you put vision in more articulate manner, more custom to individual behavior. That's one of the biggest challenge I personally face, and still learning as when time is passing, but it's still a lot to learn in that aspect.
If I had to ask you to categorize data engineers in some way, describe a team of data engineers to someone who doesn't know what data engineering is or what they do. Are there some characteristics that come to mind at a more universal or generic level?
Yeah, I think so. So basically obsession with data, right? So when you see the when you connect the dot and see common characteristic of this team is, you know, their profession somehow influence their personal life as well, because you work if you work in a very intense data engineering or data analytics teams, then you take that home as well. For I'll give you one very simple example, right? When we go for grocery shopping, I ask, my wife to give me a bills, right, so that I can take a picture, dump that data into database, and try to see the trend, how the consumption of different pulses, or let's say vegetables, over the period of last 6 months, right? Are we consuming more junk or more, green vegetables, right? So so that's so you basically, always challenge any guesses or gut feelings, right? Rather you look for data. So sometimes it's irritating for your
I was going to ask you, does she appreciate that or is she irritated by it?
it is irritating for her. She said, okay, let it be, keep it to your.
Yeah. Keep work and work. Um, okay, fine. So you kind of described a little bit about the characteristics of, of a data engineer, someone who's obsessed with data, wants to analyze, learn from patterns. Who are you? Who is Rahul as a manager? Like, if you're to describe in third person, Rahul as a manager is someone who, how would you describe yourself as a manager?
When I took up this role, right, when this role came to me in my previous organization, from individual contributor to transitioning to people manager, right, around 4 years back, um, when I analyzed my own strength, right, I realized, or what do I like, or what I'm good at. I realize I can abstract things. I cannot go too much into detail of particular domain, let's say sales or marketing or IT. Rather, I can abstract things. I'm very good at it, and understand where the organization is going, right, or what the need, what problem we are trying to solve. Start from there and go down to things. So when I realized that, that's how, this, and similar time this role also was available to be filled. And my manager also realized the same thing about me, that I want to work with many people. Kind of mentoring is something which comes organically, and at some point I also want to do teaching, because I used to do as my side gig as well previously. So that comes very naturally, and basically explaining things in very simple manner, connecting very complex, let's say, topics with day-to-day real life. That's why I explain my mom what I do, right? And she really appreciate, she can understand with her own context. So that is who I am, abstract thinker, and putting things in simple manner. And that's what you need when you lead a team of very highly intellectual people. Then you sometimes think, people think that making things complex, putting more jargons helps, but it does not help when you run a team. You When you want to produce outcome, first of all you need to explain things in very simple manner. That's what comes naturally.
Okay. If I had to look over your shoulder on any day and see your computer, your desktop, laptop, whatever you use the most, even if it is your phone, what would be some apps or platforms or tools that I would see open day to day to day?
Yeah, so it changes actually.
Yeah.
These days it's a little different, but yeah, couple of things I can tell you. Like LinkedIn, I
Mm,
am like I can't live with without opening LinkedIn app at least 4 or 5 times in a day, and post something at least once in a week, right?
mm,
That's one thing. And these days, the chat gpt, right, this is something which I'm using on my phone as well as on my computer a lot, and in for various dimensions, right? It helps me
mm.
in my personal life, in my day-to-day office works, right? It's helping a lot. It's kind of a your personal assistant, I think of. Yeah.
Right. So you have LinkedIn and ChatGPT. Anything else that's a go-to?
Then usual tools like I operate on Gmail a lot,
Mm,
and I stay away from other social media. I'm not very active there. But
mm.
yeah, I think these are the main things. Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into your tool of choice. What are we going to talk about today when it comes to, you know, a power tool that you have relied on a lot?
Yeah, I think we can talk about. I can show you, how I leverage ChatGPT. It's still figuring out, but it started helping me in many ways.
Okay, yeah. So before we get into ChatGPT itself, let me, or rather the screen share, give me some sense of when was the first time you, I mean, I'm assuming, we all learned about ChatGPT at one point, but did you learn about it at the same time, or were you aware of, um, you know, uh, anything that OpenAI was doing even before that?
No, frankly, I was not aware about what
Hmm.
OpenAI is doing. I think um, 8 to 10 months back,
Hmm.
when I first encountered, I don't know, over LinkedIn or something, about I learned about ChatGPT. The same day I created the account and started asking very basic question, and I was amazed with the answers, right, it used to generate. And that's how I started looking into how I can leverage it for my not for answer, not for asking curiosity based question,
Hmm.
but more for technical work done. Then I started researching more about OpenAI and what other tools or APIs they have to offer, because it relates to my work as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's just one thing I would like to mention, right? We are all talking about AI, right? There is a data which fuels AI, right? So if in order
Yes.
to have your AI strategy, you have to have your data strategy first. That's where we come into picture.
Right. So what did how did ChatGPT make you feel, especially as someone who's from the background of data and you're working with big data, you're working with data lakes, and you understand the importance of what comes in, shit comes in, shit goes out, good data comes in, good data goes out. So what were the thoughts that were coming to your mind around ChatGPT when you first encountered it as a data manager?
Yeah, the best thing. So I try to understand how this is different than what we are used to. For example, machine learning or
Hmm.
other forecasting, let's say algorithms, right? Then I realized ChatGPT is or any generative AI, right? It's very very different than these traditional machine learning or advanced computing. In a way, it can generate new content, right? That was a game changer. That is a game changer. Otherwise, based on your input data set, your machine is predicting something, but in very limited scope. But the generative AI, especially ChatGPT, is producing something very new, which you are not
Hmm.
feeding into it. So that was the first thing that opened my mind, right, to to give it a try and see how it can help me.
And it seems like it has lived up to your expectations.
Oh, more than it, more than it.
Okay. All right. So let's get into it because I want to understand a few examples or use cases for ChatGPT. And you said personal and professional. Let's see whatever you have to show. Should we go ahead and do a screen share?
Oh yeah, let me share my screen here. So this is the so I use both ChatGPT as a
Hmm.
in browser-based app, right,
Hmm.
as well as the API in the programmatical manner, right. That is more for my complex work, right. But this
Hmm.
is very much day-to-day work I use. So couple of example I would like to or use cases maybe I would like to tell you how. So as you already introduced, and you know that I'm like very much active on LinkedIn. I like
Hmm.
to post a lot over LinkedIn. So, and one of the biggest challenge with me is I can communicate really well when I'm
Hmm.
speaking, but written communication I always face
Hmm.
challenges, right? And
Hmm.
it
Hmm.
used to take a lot of time writing an article or a post and reviewing it and then posting it on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
So what I started doing is I started using ChatGPT. So what I do is I just give ChatGPT some prompts, what exactly I want to do, right? So for example, you can think of you can see this screen and see I'm just giving the prompt to GPT as write LinkedIn post in 200 words on below topic, right? And here I'm giving the context. So this comes naturally in my mind, right? How what I'm thinking, I keep writing it. This may not be polished, but when I ask ChatGPT, it give it a structure and good narration about what I'm trying to write, and it gives me the post right with very uh, written ready-made, and
Yeah.
then the tags as well, right?
Right.
So I just have to review this once and then go ahead and post it. So in nutshell,
So
it's bringing down time to create a post and giving much more quality in less time.
got it. So tell me something. Oh, give me a comparison. How much time was it taking you before ChatGPT to be ready to post? And how much time is it taking you now?
Yeah, so earlier, so time is one thing. Second thing, I was sometimes I used to lose interest. Okay, I need to write a post, and then to think a lot about it. But yeah, time wise, you can say in order to write these 200 words, right, in by my own, it used to take around 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes sometimes, based on the complexity of the topic. Right now, I can write it in, let's say, less than 5 minutes, just providing my thoughts, not giving the structure that GPT does by itself. So you
Fair
can say
enough.
20
Okay.
minutes to 5 minutes, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, no, no, that's obviously a dramatic drop. So, okay, so you're using ChatGPT to create content. Again, that's a use case that as a creator, I can see this being pretty powerful, right? And it's what ChatGPT is known for, is to generate content out of ideas. As long as you feed it the idea, then it
Mhm.
knows what to do and take it from there for the most part. What are some other use cases? Is there anything specific to your job that you use ChatGPT for?
Oh yeah, I can give you another example or use case here. So basically, I'll give you some context about it. So in my job, we sometimes need to create data-driven apps, right? And in order to create apps, you need to write code, right, from scratch. But what happens is, just think about you are somebody who wants to get some app created, and you give the instructions to developer, right? You give the instruction in very natural language. Okay, I want my app to look like this. There should be a heading, then there should be a drop down, then there should be a picture, banner, all those natural language description you give to a developer, and then they start writing the code, right? Same thing I'm trying to mimic here. Earlier, what I used to do, I used to write this is a Python code, by the way. So I used to write this Python code from scratch by importing the libraries and going down till the end, right? Now, what I started doing is, instead of starting from scratch, I can give these instructions. For example, generate code for a particular app to measure employee productivity. So this is kind of a purpose of this app, how we measure employee productivity. And the instructions are as follows. So these are the step-by-step instructions in sequence I'm giving. Then after step two, create a divider, and then what needs to be the next. And within a fraction of few minutes, right? I can see GPT generating a basic code for me. So this is kind of a foundational code it is giving me. It may not be the perfect code to be deployed in production, but I can just start from here instead of start from scratch. And I know Python because I did a lot of development, but somebody who is not that good with coding, or especially with Python or Java, any kind of languages, they can simply come here, give the instruction, and start with the base code. And then you can fine tune it, you can add, alter it, modify it. That's how I'm currently using it for my work.
And
This
do
is
you
one of the.
feel, yeah, do you feel like this is a solid starting point for someone who, let's say, is not strong in Python or in, creating apps? Is this a good enough starting point for you to tell somebody, this is how I would start? I would put it into ChatGPT and then build on it. Would you give that suggestion to someone?
I would not say starting point. You have to know basics of programming, let's say, right? For example, what is the library? Very basic fundamental of pseudocodes, let's say, right? What is the loop, condition, if else, all those things, very basic 10th standard stuff. And then you need not to learn a particular language, I would say. Once you know the basics, you can write, give instruction, and get any code out of it. But yeah, this helps in a way that you need not to figure out, okay, which library I need to use in order to get my job done. This GPT identify by itself.
Got it. So again, if we were to put this into more tangible form, how has this changed your workflow from what you were doing earlier? As in, we can talk about in terms of time saving. We can talk about in terms of effort. Like you decide.
Yeah, definitely. So as I mentioned, right, so let's say my problem statement is I want to create an app
Mm-hmm.
to measure employee productivity, right? And based on my infrastructure, I want to use Python, let's say. So that's usually before GPT, right? What I used to do is, first of all, research which kind of libraries in Python help me, which are pre-built functions I can leverage to create this app, right? Those initial research needs to be done. And then you see the documentation about those library. For example, you see plotly.express, right? This is something I'm not aware about. So I need to go through its documentation and figure out what all functions or methods I can use from this library in my Python code, right? Now, coming to GPT, that entire process of discovery has gone away because I just start my code or instruction from the problem statement, and GPT gives me the relevant libraries and use its functions inside the code. Now, if I'm not happy with the output, so what I will do, I'll copy this code, I'll run this in my machine where I'm deploying this. If it is not giving me the desired outcome, then maybe I can backtrack what is not working and fix it a little bit. So that helps reducing the pre-preparation when we create this app, and significantly, save the time there. So I'll give you very tangible, let's say, data points here. So for example, this employee productivity app, which I was trying to create, if I do not use ChatGPT the prior way, it takes around 2 hours to come up with this basic foundational app. But here it takes only, let's say, 10 minutes to get this app, the foundational app done.
That's a lot of time saved
Absolutely.
and effort. Okay, all right. So we have the second use case. Is there anything else that you want to share?
Another use case, it is similar to content generation, which I
Hmm.
keep using, is about. So I go to a lot of public speaking, on my company
Hmm.
behalf in various workshops. There they need some kind of bio to be written, right?
Hmm.
And some of and these need to be tweaked based on the
Hmm.
event.
Hmm.
So I keep writing I basically start writing my bio in ChatGPT and
Hmm.
tweak it based on the event, basically. So
Got
you
it.
can see one of the bios I was writing for one of the senior manager, senior leadership person here. So I just gave some context, and then it created bio in 500, let's say, characters. Sometimes when we apply on some portals, there are character limits or words
Hmm.
limits, right? So you need to tweak that. So you just put the existing bio and then ask GPT to limit it to, let's say, 500 characters in this case. and
Right.
it gives you very precise outcome.
So, one of the things that we can stop the share screen for now. Thanks, Rahul.
Mhm.
So, I want to kind of come back to a few words I wrote down as we were talking. One of them you mentioned was clarity. Okay, like clarity of thought, clarity of ideas, clarity of vision. You also mentioned articulate, right, in a context. But again, for me, you see, like, those are parallels now, right? You're talking about clarity, talking about being articulate. Everything is about being clear about whatever it is that you are trying to convey or project, right? You also mentioned jargon free, and now you mentioned all these three things in across three different questions that I've asked, but these words have come up, right? So maybe this is a little bit of a self reflexive exercise here. But in the context of ChatGPT, or in the context of ways in which you are managing teams, how are you incorporating or living, how are you enacting clarity, right? Or being articulate or being jargon free? Does the tool that we just talked about, the platform that we just talked about, does that help in some way towards these goals? Because these seem to be pretty important to you. You've mentioned it quite a few times.
Yeah, so this definitely help in terms of written communication, right?
Hmm.
Whenever I am, let's say, trying to consolidate or translate higher management vision to my team, right?
Hmm.
And trying to, let's say, write some of the expectations as we're
Hmm.
starting a new calendar year, then these tools really helps to simplify and be very precise with my thoughts,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
it's a human nature, right? We think a lot, we have like trillions
Yeah.
of parameters in our brain.
Yeah.
So how to be precise, otherwise it's very, I have learned this hard way, right? When I took this manager role in my previous
Hmm.
company, I was trying to do a lot of stuff, and I used to
Hmm.
convey a lot of things to people, and at the
Hmm.
end we were not moving the needle. That's what I figured out. And then I realized, okay, if you be precise, very outcome driven, simple task, then you can move the needle in an incremental manner. So this
Okay.
tool really helps, but this is not the only tool which I use. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, I use another tool I forgot to mention very often is Grammarly, right? In terms
Hmm.
of communication. Yeah, it's getting so advanced, right? Because somehow the way I grew up, the schooling days, right? The adjectives, use of adjectives, I miss a lot. So these are the tricks I use.
Okay, so I can see Grammarly and ChatGPT working together as well, right? Uh, so tell me, okay, so both of these tools help you with clarity, with articulation, breaking things down simply. And with your example, it makes it even more evident why this is important to you, because you have that learning of, needing to keep things on point. Can you tell me where it's a tough question to ask, or to answer rather, for you, which is, where does ChatGPT fall short? But I'm going to reframe that question and say, when do you leave ChatGPT and move to Grammarly? Because you gave Grammarly as an example. When are you moving out of the platform while you're still in content creation mode, right? So you still want to get that content done. Can you give me that scenario where you've got to leave the platform?
Definitely. So in day-to-day work, right? When I write emails, right,
Hmm.
or chatting over Slack with my
Hmm.
counterparts, right,
Hmm.
then I would not go to ChatGPT because it's too much hop, right? You go to
Hmm.
ChatGPT, write it, and then copy it, then paste it,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it will take some time as well, right? Rather, in terms of very asynchronous communication and not so formal communication, I on day-to-day communication, because we are working in a global
Hmm.
team, some people working remote. That time the go-to thing is Grammarly, which is embedded in these apps. So Grammarly embedded in
Hmm.
Gmail, Grammarly is embedded in Slack, right? Or when I'm writing a Word doc, let's say, it is
Hmm.
embedded there, right? But things like where I'm posting something on external platforms like
Hmm.
LinkedIn, or
Hmm.
let's say I'm writing email to CXOs, right?
Hmm.
Or where things need to be very formal and precise,
Yeah.
then I'm using ChatGPT. Versus when I'm writing things to my coworkers or my counterparts in global geographies, then I'm relying on Grammarly.
Understood. Now, I don't know too much about, the advancement in Grammarly. I know its basic functionality and what it used to help us do at a very basic level is clean up our grammar. In what way would it be fair to say that in Grammarly, you're not asking it to rewrite, right? You're writing it in the way that you would talk because it's informal, and it's just fixing that for you.
Yes, it's giving me the suggestions
Yeah.
and some spelling mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So that's where it is changing. But
Great.
just to
Hmm.
just one thing you mentioned, right? It has improved a lot in last 6 months, I would say. Earlier, it
Okay.
was only about let's say correcting the spellings,
Right. That's what I thought. Yeah.
and nowadays it can check your entire sentence and propose some adjectives need to be added, or some
Hmm.
voices, right? Active versus passive voice. So that narrative also it checks and suggests.
Very cool. I now get more clarity about where ChatGPT works for you because of where it doesn't work for you.
Yeah,
So that's a really helpful comparison. If you had to encapsulate, or rather, just complete the sentence for me, um, ChatGPT is a great tool for data managers when dash.
to write code,
Okay.
optimize code.
Okay. To write code and optimize code. Fair enough. Okay. Um, I only have a rapid fire left for you now. But before I get into the rapid fire, is there anything else about ChatGPT uh, or this idea of clarity, articulation at the content level, but also as a manager level that you want to share?
Definitely, one point is very important to understand. ChatGPT is an open source tool, right? Managed
Hmm.
by OpenAI. Here you can ask generic question because ChatGPT is trained on public data sets
Hmm.
which are publicly available. For example, Wikipedia, Stack Overflow,
Hmm.
these data, or Reddit, right? These
Hmm.
data sets. But when you want to leverage it for your own organizational needs,
Hmm.
right? Because your organization, you have some private data which is
Hmm.
not publicly available. So if you ask those particular conversational questions to ChatGPT about your organization, for example, why my sales is down in 2023,
Hmm.
right? ChatGPT will not answer that question because it does not have your sales data, which is very
Hmm.
private to your organization, right? And you are not supposed to give those data to ChatGPT. I mean, that's a very see. These are very great tool, but comes with a lot of liabilities. If you share your sales data or any PII data, intellectual data, with GPT, it trains its model, and next person who is querying can ask these things. So when you want to use these Gen AI in your enterprise premise or
Hmm.
organizational boundaries, then there are other ways to do it. You use these models which are provided by OpenAI, deploy it in your own infrastructure. Do not share any private data with these models. That's the thing I want to leave with, because the ChatGPT, when I use it's like 20% of my work get done.
Hmm.
But when it comes to very specific to my organization work, we have deployed some of the large language model or these
Hmm.
GPT models in our own organization premise, which are trained by our own data sets, not the public data sets.
That is really valuable advice because it is easy to forget when you have that tab open to just copy paste everything and ask it to summarize, ask it to rewrite, ask it to generate. So, really, really important point. So, I appreciate you bringing that up here. All right. Are you ready for the rapid fire?
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. All right. First question. Name one thing on your bucket list.
Right now, Dubai. Trip to
Okay.
Dubai.
Which social media platform are you most active on?
LinkedIn.
Okay. What comes to mind when I say happiness?
Peace.
Peace of mind
Peace
or
of
peace in
mind.
the
Yeah.
world?
No,
Okay.
peace of my own
Okay.
mind. My mind is very cluttered. It's like jungle sometimes. So peace in my mind is
That's why clarity matters so much to you.
definitely.
uh, okay. And do you own a vehicle?
Yes.
What do you own?
It's a car. I own a Creta.
Okay, all right. Okay, that was it. Those are my rapid fire questions, hopefully quite painless. And Rahul, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure to get into your mind a little bit and see how ChatGPT and Grammarly are helping you, you know, be a better manager, I guess, or be a more productive, more efficient manager.
Yeah,
So
better. I don't
thanks.
know. You should ask my team, but more productive. I can. Yeah.
Okay. All right, more productive. But thanks so much, Rahul. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this.
Okay, all right, bye.
Bye bye.